We are live, guys. All
Let's
right.
go.
Yeah, it did. So I'm Ricky Khamis, president of Epic Lending. I've got okay. So Drake, you want to introduce yourself real quick, and then I'll have Austin introduce himself, and then we'll get into this.
I'm Drake. I am the brother of Austin and son of Ricky. I'm new to the business, but I'm just trying my best to learn every day and do my studies, do my research, and that's what I came to create this presentation for you guys. So,
My name's Austin. I'm also Drake's brother and Ricky's son. And I've been in the business for a little bit of time now. I handle the front end, back end, make sure the loan closes smoothly, make sure they qualify, make sure everybody's updated. And me and Drake and Ricky here are the best team in town. So let us know what you guys need and we'll be there for you.
Yeah, I love it. I'm gonna give you guys a quick update on how we actually operate. So we just had a client that was being really put through the ringer by another lender, and they had 7 days to close this loan when I got this call. And you know, Kirsten, God bless her, said, "I know you can do it." Well, I love a challenge, right? I knew I had 7 days to close the loan, but there was a holiday in there, so I said I can't close it in 7, but I could close it in 8. And man, did we pull it off! One of the coolest parts of this is he had sold his house and had to move from his pride. He had nowhere to move to, and we ended up sending our wire 4 days early, so that way it was just sitting at title to appease the listing agent, and then they ended up letting him move in the property. Everybody was happy. He got to move in, and then he ended up funding on that following Tuesday after the holiday, which was awesome. So if proof is in the pudding, and give us a shot if you haven't. If you have, we really appreciate you, and we want to bring you value like this as often as we can. So Drake is a study of the market. He studied financials in college and has taken it to a whole other level. So I'm pretty excited for him to go through this with you guys.
oh, I'll take it away from there. Thank you for saying I'm a studier, which I am. But so, really, where this came about was I noticed that, in previous markets, a 6% rate really wasn't a hindrance to sales. And I came to the conclusion, which is pretty obvious in hindsight, that it's the inflation of the prices of the house. With We can move on from there, but let's go to the next slide if it'll work. There you go. Okay. So the median home price has risen 50% since 2020, while the average household income has only gone up 15%. So that's driven up the front end DTI, which is the debt to income minus the payment of the house, right? And the historical norm that supported 5 million homes was around 25 to 28%. And the best way I can put this in an analogy is I run on the canal in my neighborhood and it gets hot in summer. So you see nobody out on the canal when it's hot. So there's like that natural constraint. But then when the weather starts getting cool, there's a bunch of people out running and stuff like that. So there's just natural constraints that I'm trying to bring clarity to people on. Because if you ask the average person, they're going to say, yeah, it's the rates that are high. But it's a combination of rates being high as well as the inflation of the home prices, which are really driving people out. So you can see that slide. We'll move on. So this matters because at a 30% front end DTI, it prices out 10 to 15% of potential buyers. And there's also another effect where in COVID, rates were super low. And a lot of, it says right here, 80% of people have sub 5% interest rates. So they don't want to move out of a 5% interest rate into, let's say, a 7% interest rate. So it just limiting the supply, so then that drives the prices of the houses up on the market already. And this is an interesting stat. We, even with the weakening of the dollar, meaning that 1.9 trillion today is less than 2.5 trillion in 2021, we still see, $600 billion less from 2021 to 2025 currently. But also the whole point of this is also to provide the remedy at the end. So we'll get to that. So as you can see here in this graph, this is the DTI, the front end DTI, which moves inversely to home sales. So as front end DTI goes up, home sales go down. So you could see this is a pretty big divergence here of homes, or this, the DTI being up here and then the home sales being way down here. So yeah, this is probably the worst market we've seen. It is actually statistically with home sales, how that goes. But so this is just another, put it into perspective, if you could read that. These are all when rates were 6% and when the homes and the volume of homes sold. So you see in 2004, 6% rates didn't really affect the market and things of that nature. So we can move on from there. It's kind of the same thing, but in word format. It's just showing you how DTI really is the main driver of home sales. So yeah, you can just take a gander at that, pause it if you need to. So why it's different. Today's 30% DTI is 3 to 7 percentage points higher than past 6% rates. This is equivalent to 8% rates on a $240,000 home. So meaning you factor in lower income, higher home prices, and a 6% rate. That's like a real rate of around 8%. Yeah, so that's interesting to me. We can move on. So yeah, so our solution is the 2-1 buy down. And in this market, we've seen sellers give out seller concessions like nobody's business. But we think that if seller concessions were to go to the 2-1 buy down strategy, then that acts as a 28 front end DTI, which is kind of that magic number that we want to get to. So if they were to do a 2.1 buy down, the effective rate is 4.2125 for the first year, 5.125 by the second year. And this is so it costs to do the buy down. The seller pays for it via seller concessions. And over that time, you're saving roughly $8,000 to $10,000 in interest payments. And then our thesis is by the time the buy down's up and you're at that market rate, is we can refi you down to the 5.5% is, according to FedWatch, is what we're expected to be in late 2026. So yeah, you can see here this is seller paid often. So you get, and then this is how much you would save in 2 years versus the standard rate. So that that unlocks the market for I have the information for that. Let's see. Kind of the same thing. Okay, so this is interesting. If 20% of the deals that we do used buy downs, that could add 100 to 200,000 sales nationally a year because it lowers that front end DTI. So then this is just kind of like a marketing pitch for our realtors that we work with. It's like getting a 5% rate now and then you refi down. So it's pretty clean cut right there. Yeah, and it's also, I feel like it's a better pitch instead of, because you don't, we see a lot of 3% seller concessions just nationally. That's what's been going on. But instead of the seller having to give up 3% seller concessions, they just pay for the buy down, which ultimately saves them money and gets their house moving quicker because more people are going to be able to buy it. So that's just a recipe for success right there. And this was the end of my presentation. So
Yeah, so let's
what are your
talk
thoughts,
about
Ricky?
that. let's talk about the buy downs, because
Okay.
we have done more 2-1 and 3-2-1 buy downs in the last 6 months than in the 26 years I've been doing this, right? Because we haven't been in a true seller's market for a while, right? And now, it used to be 3 buyers per property. Now it's 3 properties per buyer, which the seller is competing for that buyer to get them to come and buy your house. And when that inverts and there's 3 people looking to buy a house, to buy the same house, it's going to be the one who has the most money that wins that contract. So you have to look at it like this: the net effective rate. Does the seller need to net more today when there's maybe one buyer, or tomorrow when they have a slew of people to pick from? And when that rate drops, because we're already seeing it right now, where there's a little tick up in sellers kind of pushing back a little bit because there's so much commentary on the rates coming down that there's more buyers hitting the market. Well, to Drake's point, and what this presentation is about, we're about a half a point away from a lot of the affordability to be able to hit. When that hits, those buyers are going to hit the market. And then it's going to be the person who can weather not getting concessions, weather not paying over appraised value. So our point to this is get in now, lock up the property. It's called marry the house. When you get married, I also teach a divorce class, by the way, but when you get married, it's supposed to be for life, right? Till death do us part. So when you're thinking about buying a property, it's till death do us part. With the rate, you have to think of that like speed dating. You're quickly going through each date to get to the better date. And what we do is we help you manage your dates. So we give you an annual mortgage review that tells you how your loan is performing against the market. Can we drop your mortgage insurance? Can we change your loan term from, let's say, a 30 to a 20 and not increase your payment? Things like that. We're always looking for opportunities to get you to that next date. Right now, you have the perfect opportunity to do so, but you've got to talk to more people and let them know, look, right now, you can get a 30-year fixed in the 5s. We're at 5.99 yesterday on a 30-year fixed, right? Like you can get a 5 number. And then if you get 2 or 2.5% in seller concessions, you can now do a buy down and save that person $500, $600 a month for their first year. That is getting people off of the fence because they know that the rates are going to be coming down and they're going to be refinancing into a rate that was at their buy down rate. And that's the goal. So really, really solid work on your analysis, Drake. Really good job.
Thank you.
Austin, what do you think?
I think that was great, Drake. Good job on that. The 2-1 buy down is a great product, and especially if you get the seller to pay for it, you save money. So it's a no-brainer in my book. Then just refi down. That's the name of the game right now.
In case you didn't know, Austin is our loan analyst, and basically what that means is he's our finance guy. Like he takes all the income docs and squeezes every nickel out that we can in order for your people to qualify for the most amount of house. And he's very skilled at it and quick. So, you self-employed people, people who have complicated returns, I challenge you to bring it to us because you don't necessarily need a bank statement program. But on that point, a DSCR loan, which requires no income documentation, is only 6 3/8 today. 6 3/8. It was 7.5 4 months ago on a DSCR loan. So imagine how many more people would go out and buy a property using a DSCR loan, which we'll do a whole other training on. But just imagine you talk to a number of people who you knew had money that could buy an investment property. They just didn't want to go through the hassle of all the income docs and all that. DSCR loan's perfect, and they're in the mid sixes. Okay, let's help people create generational wealth. That's all I have for today. You guys have any parting words?
Nope, but that was good. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys on the next one.